Hey you guys, Molly and Ben here with Design Loves Detail, and today we're going to be talking about flip homes and what we have learned so far in our experience with that, so stay tuned for more. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when our next video is live. If you guys were watching recently, you might have seen the last two videos, which were homes that we toured that are potential, that could be. Anyways, we're kind of wanting to show what we look for when we go looking for a flip home.
We thought it'd be a good idea to kind of show you what we look for, because a lot of times some people don't know what the flip process is like, and it's not like we've done a ton of flips, but we've bought a couple and moved into one of them. Where we are now.
I can't say we're like the poster children for flipping, but I think at the same time, it's almost like we've more recently gotten into it. And so we have a little bit more like maybe insight of the, what things are maybe a challenge and stuff on the way into it. And sometimes I feel like it can be one of those things where people are like, oh, everybody's doing that. Or, there's too many people doing that already. After you have like shows like Fixer Upper and Flip or Flop, those kinds of things where it feels like everybody's doing it, but there's still room. There's still room if you're into that, because it's amazing how many homes are really outdated and people don't want to buy them for that reason. In fact, one of the ones that we looked at yesterday that I kind of really liked.
Yeah, that was the last video you saw. Molly fell in love with the house.
It was weird.
And you try to not get emotional.
Yeah.
But that happened.
It's almost like there was a stark difference in that first home that I was like, yeah, okay, like looking at it from a really realistic perspective, kind of talking dollars and cents and what would go into, taking a home like that and updating it. And the second one, it's just like, oh my gosh, I have a vision. Like, yeah. This is going to be amazing.
Molly sees things in 3D in her brain all the time. And for me, it's just like numbers. Like, okay, well, what does that mean? Maybe I see dollar signs.
That's all he sees.
Or dollar signs, with an X through them. So my job's just to try to take the emotion out of it and get realistic with things.
Yeah.
But we don't even really go look at a house unless the pictures or something like that, or the initial numbers even dictate that it's worth our time.
We kind of have a goal price per square foot for this area that we look at. And so that would be something that you would want to look at for your own area, kind of to see, what's the top of the market, what are the highest end things selling for, and what's the lowest end selling for. And then really kind of setting up some type of a goal for yourself there that would be profitable. Top dollar around here. I mean, honestly, we just saw one over the weekend that sold for $422 a square foot, which is insane here, because when we bought this home, it was June, I guess it was June of 2020. So, just about a year ago. And we paid $164 a square foot. And so to have the market now be where something is selling at that, I mean, that was an extreme, the 422, but we are seeing homes come on the market every day around 300 to 350 a square foot, which is just insane to me.
On average, it feels like homes are around 270-ish a square foot, give or take.
Yeah.
But, the one we're flipping now that we're in the process of, if you've been following along, that you've seen, and we're getting close to finishing it up, that one is more numbers based, and it had less margin in it. It wasn't as good of a deal, but Molly had a vision for it immediately. We knew we could stay in budget, and our budget on it is $100,000 for renovation costs and furniture, because as you know, we sell the house furnished. With Molly's ability to stage homes, people really undervalue the staging of a home and what it can do to sell a home. We've sold
the last two
furnished, and Molly's ability, and I guess I get to say this because she's not going to pat herself on the back, but Molly's ability to make a home look amazing can really help sell that home for top dollar. Obviously, we don't cheap out on things. We don't do crappy work. We make sure everything's done correctly.
We're not doing the bare minimum, because there is, and I mean, I think that that's a totally fine philosophy, because you can update a home as cheap as you can to get the most return on your investment in a lot of cases. That's how it's seen. For me, I feel like people pay top dollar when there's something a little extra. Like there's something that makes this house stand out from every other house. And it's not just that it's updated, it's not just like, oh, this is in style, that floor is in style. It's not just about being in style. It's about like almost like that vision of you want to see your family there, that whole thing, that and that's almost like an X factor in some ways. For me, I can explain it in some details with each house. Like I could say this house that we live in, For me, the things that were the magic were I knew that the backyard could go from looking like this to really an outdoor oasis, which it is now.
Yeah, a luxury resort looking
Yes,
space.
so that it was like this extreme transformation of a space that felt just useless, really, and overlooked, to being like something that gives you a lifestyle, gives you like
A
living
vision.
here.
When someone comes to buy it, it gives them a
Yes.
vision of, this is what I want.
Yeah, I want to walk into my backyard and feel like I'm on vacation. I'm a little bit attached to this house. I've said that. It's interesting how much I love it on an emotional level. I don't feel like when I bought it, I was necessarily emotional. I did know. I just knew, and from it was pictures online, literally.
We bought the house without ever seeing it. We were under contract. We came and saw it before it was final, but
It was pretty
we trusted
crazy.
our realtor buddy Mike. He knew what we were looking for. We'd looked at multiple homes, and the numbers made sense.
And the other thing for me, I think, with this house specifically was the high ceilings. I've talked about that. Every single room in this house has high ceilings, and I knew that that was another untapped potential. So kind of like these areas where you can expand into showing a feature that almost doesn't feel like an asset in the home as it exists. That was a hard sentence. As it stands, it doesn't have the wow factor, and you add that in, and it's literally like you added square footage, or you added just a whole different feel to it. And so that's what it was in this one. I think was mostly the high ceilings, and the layout also. The efficient layout is just something that is top notch in this house, and I didn't know that until I knew that the spaces all felt good and the sizes felt right for each space. You know, a good size primary suite, a good size primary bathroom, the outdoor space. I knew that I could tell that they were the right amount of space, but then seeing how it actually laid out was just like, wow, that was.
Now, we didn't. You're spending a lot of time talking about this house. We didn't flip this house. So
Well,
the ones
it was intended.
it
as
was
a flip.
intended for a flip. So just to make that clear,
And
we're talking
so-
about the house we live in, but
Yes.
the whole thought process and all the numbers were based on flipping this house, and it
Yes.
quickly became,
And we
want to keep it.
Yeah.
So
And we, if we were to sell this house, we would come out ahead by about
about 100,000 right
about
now,
100,000
or
because
maybe
the
more.
market increase was really extreme. That's not common.
I think the market's crazy all over the country from
And
what
you
from what
have
I've
to-
read and seen. But it's no exception here. So.
You also have to keep in mind that this one was a longer remodel and that we've been here for a while. So, you know, it being over a year, that's something different too. With this flip that we're doing now, our goal is 2 to 3 months because we have to make it quick and we have to,
which is ambitious.
yes.
Depending
So-
on the flip, right? You have to determine how much work needs to be done.
Right.
But this one was, what they call a full gut. The one we're working on now and finishing, that one had a lot of demo in the main area, but not so much in
Bedrooms or anything.
bedrooms and bathrooms were taking most of the things out there too. But a lot of the extensive demo and then kind of reconstruction of some of those pieces was in the main area. So it depends on what you're looking for. Anytime you go into a flip, you've got to think about, what am I going to get this for? If I can get it for X amount, and this is really what I do before we go actually look at it. Molly we see something we think we like, then I pull out the calculator and see, okay, do we think we can sell it for this? Is that realistic? We talk to our buddy Mike, say, okay, is this realistic in this area, since he knows it much better than we do here?
Yes, 'cause that's
and
a huge
see
factor.
what's the selling point. And we try to be conservative with that. We don't want to say, okay, we're going to definitely sell it for top dollar. And then take out all the fees that are going to need to go into that. And what's our margin?
Right.
How much space do we have to make renovations? And then how much space for profit is left, right? So if we've got $150,000 in that range in between the purchase price and the sales price without the fees, we put 100 into it, we can come out with $50,000.
That's the goal. The thing that's tricky though is that so a lot of times, if somebody were designing like a house, they would hire a designer, hire the staging. So we don't have those costs as hard costs. They do take my hours. We get to have a higher margin, just like a builder would if he did his own work. But we have a lot of costs in our time. So, keep that in mind too. The more work you do, of course, the less you're paying out. And so that's not in those costs. So when we have those numbers, they might sound, like, wow, that sounds like a ton, but we do have so much of the time and
takes out from the other things that
I
make
could
money
be
in our
making money on.
business.
So it does take a hit, in that way. So it's not like that's all just like profit.
But it is certainly worthwhile.
But it does, yeah. And it gives us a lot of interesting content to share with you guys as well, doing flip homes. And then I think it's cool because like this house that I fell in love with yesterday, it had been on the market for 3 weeks. So we talked about how the market here has been really busy. It's slowed down some for sure since when we shared that recently.
And the flip we're finishing up had been on the market for a little while.
A couple weeks. So it's like these homes, to me, it's like the weirdest thing. It's like this neglected home. Like it's like everybody's beautiful. Every home is beautiful, you just have to like
discover the beauty.
I know that sounds so dramatic, but like it's this thing like I want to make it someone's home. I want someone to love it again. My dad actually did flipping homes with my grandpa, and I got to witness some of the changes that were amazing. Like my dad would do woodworking, and it was really a cool thing to see. And I think that led me down this path to some degree. So anyways, this is the story. Toy Story. My dad, whole Toy Story series.
No,
on like the third movie when the when the toys get given, is it the third one?
Not spoiler alert, but it's been out for a decade, so you better
I know.
Anyway.
Okay.
We're not going to spend a ton of time on kids movies because we have 4 kids, so obviously we spend time
but the
this.
analogy is this. My dad cried, when Andy gave his toys away, because it was such a journey. It'd been such a journey. And then somebody else gets to love those same toys. And so it's kind of like that for me with houses, right? Like they have like this story. Every house has this story, and you want to get it to that place where someone gets to love it again. It gets to be their home, and it gets to have those memories.
And bring that story out and accentuate it, I think, is probably the way that you would do it.
Yeah.
I don't get that way very much. I get that way in homes we've lived in, but I don't get that way. Like I won't even drive past a home that we've lived in, that we've moved from.
Yeah.
But I don't get as emotionally involved. It's more about numbers for me, which is, I think, what works for us. In making sure the numbers work and that kind of thing.
Yes.
But
so definitely there's that element. There's the element of just the cold hard facts of, do these numbers make sense? And then for me, it's also seeing the magic that could happen real quick, because I think like real life examples are helpful. The one that we're flipping now, that house, the things that did it for me was the size of the kitchen. I knew that this could be like an entertaining house, and that was almost like this house is destiny. I know Ben's going to give me so much crap for this, but you know what I mean? Like I could see what it could be because it had all this space, but then it was confined by those beams coming across.
Massive beams and a wall and everything that
yes,
just shouldn't be there.
Yeah. So it's almost like it was cluttered up with this useless stuff that it wasn't structural.
Yeah, they were design elements.
Yeah, so at the time I'm sure it was loved in that way and that those were cool, but I just knew that there was all this potential by knocking out some of that and just letting it breathe. And really the 2 living spaces were another like wow factor for me in this, that there was like a kind of a more casual living space and a more formal type living space, and then just that main for me the thing in that house is that main area being so open and having so much potential for entertaining. That was really what did it.
And you'll, as we finish it up and show you, as you follow along, and hopefully you're following along, right? Hopefully you're subscribing and here for the journey. We'd love that. You'll get to see kind of Mollie's vision come to life, which is really cool. And that's cool for me to see because I can't visualize things and I can't see things.
I draw him a lot of pictures.
I just do numbers. Sometimes I get a lot of pictures, like and I get a story in pictures so I can understand it. That's really the exciting part, is when I get to see what she's been talking about the whole time that I couldn't conceptualize. And that's really my excitement and making the money on it. But that's really where it's got to be. Kind of to boil it all down, really what you need to do is, first of all, the numbers have to make sense. You have to be able to see the purchase price, what the sales price will be, and make sure, you calculate actually how many fees, realtor fees and things like that, closing costs are going to be in there. Is there enough room to do what needs to be done? Yeah. And if you know a good contractor or you're good with that kind of thing, even better.
Yeah.
But first of all, the numbers have to make sense, and there needs to be a vision. You don't have to be like some amazing designer. but you need a
Just think
vision
of it-
for what it needs to be.
You think of it in the perspective of, if I lived here, what would I do? You know what I mean? What would make this house feel like home to me? Yeah. What are those elements? And then see if you can work that in a, you know, reasonable way. I usually have in my flip homes just like a couple little splurge things, like where, you know, that it's going to make that house have that extra.
Yeah.
Little,
and that helps people know you didn't cheap out. You know, if there are things that you leave
and we do
undone or that look bad, when that is seen, just like any of you who have sold your own homes, when that is seen, people will wonder about everything else in the house. Make sure the work is done and the job is completed when you sell that house. And again, if you stage and if you make it look good, if you're able to do that, even better. Selling it furnished, that's a different thing. Some people don't want to buy it furnished, and so that can be a detriment for some people, and can slim down your buyer pool. Having it staged and having it look good, and sometimes you can pay a staging company, and it's worth you know, a couple $1,000 maybe to stage a home to get your money back if it's done well. Those would be kind of the biggest aspects of flipping homes to make sure financially it makes sense, because, you know, it's a big investment. Doing it without making money on it is a struggle, and you know, the old Flip or Flop show on HGTV, you know, it took a couple episodes to realize they made money on every single episode.
Yeah, they did. They really
did. But so maybe there were ones they were filming and throwing in the trash.
Did we miss something? I don't know.
But
let me know in comments if you've ever seen a Flip or Flop.
Yeah, we enjoy this. It's fun for us. And
it's kind of like a family, for us, it's kind of like a family activity. We take the kids over and let them do some demo, and we work on like landscaping stuff. Our kids like being outside. And so it kind of, I feel like it's almost like our family thing as well. I don't do well with sitting still or like, you know, just like watching TV or things like that. Like I want to be hands-on. And so these are things I think that are valuable, like time together, working together. Like it's funny, I sound like I'm like so old saying that, like working together is where it's at, but like definitely I love that for our family. So one thing too that I want to mention is just how important it is to kind of plan for the unexpected. So definitely get an inspection. We did that with this house. There ended up being termites. We had seen in the report that there might be in the garage area. There's a little evidence of termites. They're like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's in the main house, but it did end up being in 2 of the bathroom walls because there was moisture there, and they like moisture. Luckily, we had in kind of the concessions in the buying process, we had asked after inspection basically for some money off to cover those kinds of issues if they were gonna, you know, play out, and they did play out. So that was a really important factor, kind of just covering your bases as much as you can and trying to get bids. So when we put an offer in on a house, I immediately go to work on getting bids for things, like especially when we get that inspection report back. Okay, like the AC might need to be replaced, you know, how much does that cost? Like trying to get all of those in line in that due diligence period when you have that offer in, but it's not locked in. You just have to get right to work on those things.
If you've got a contractor that you trust,
yeah, that's important.
That's a great resource, and you don't have to go to a bunch of different places for that information. They can give you a good ballpark.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you have, like we have Mike, and so he'll come walk through when we get the inspection report and tell us, you know, roughly what those things would cost to fix. And so it just makes your process really streamlined. Someone asked me, how did you get cabinets in that flip house so fast? It was pretty quick. And the reason is because right when we had that offer in, before we'd even closed, I made up the plans that I wanted. I sent them off to my cabinet place, and they were working on a bid for me in that time frame. You know, we were just kind of finalizing the details with the house so they could get a bid for me. And so then I could be like, once we closed, yep, let's go to work on that. And so then they can get it into production quicker and installed quicker. It is a busy time in the real estate market, in home updating, all of that. It's very busy. And so, but if you plan ahead, you can 100% make it happen in a timely manner. And in fact, we've been doing better on the flip house time frame in a crazier market than we did on this original flip. But also that's probably having done it for this is, you know, really the second. We have built homes, you know, so we've been through all the construction process and that many times. It's just a little bit different with a flip, but not by much. So we did have that kind of background knowledge of building homes, our own homes, and being on site for all of that. And
a lot of similarities, but some differences. And it's
just with older homes, you know, both this house and then our current flip are 90s homes, and that one that I fell in love with on the last video, also a 90s home. I just have something for those.
She loves a good 90s.
Because I'm a 90s kid, you know. The 90s were the best.
But when they need a lot of work, you can get them for a good price sometimes.
Yeah, they're the ones that need us.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'd love to hear your experiences too. I know a lot of you guys do flips and things, kind of what your strategies are in those.
Tell us what you think, your favorite things. Like the video, we like that. That helps us. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell to follow along with the reveal and everything for the flip house, the new build, and all of that. So glad to have you. We'll see you next time.